Today, I'm talking to Natalie Salemink. Natalie is the founder of Prismatic, and they are building treasury management solutions and tools on the Algorand blockchain. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will too. But before we dive in, this episode of the ReCoop is brought to you by Headline Inc. Headline is the creative force behind essential Algorand ecosystem tools like Algo Swap, Algo Cloud, Algo Glyph, Pipeline UI, and a host of other things, including Forum Social Network. They're doing big things. They're staying ahead of the curve, and we are glad to have them as a sponsor at the ReCoop. All right, without further ado, here is my interview with Natalie. Hey everybody, welcome to the ReCoop. I'm Cooper Daniels, and I'm a guy that knows a little about a lot. And today I'm here with Natalie Salemink. She is the founder of Prismatic. Prismatic is making treasury management tools on the Algorand blockchain. She was also in Forbes magazine as 30 people to look out for under 30. How are you doing, Natalie?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, Cooper.
Thank you. You know, we were chatting a little bit before, and I think I may have misrepresented. You were like, "Oh, we're recording this," and I was like, I was like, "Yeah." And you were such a good sport. Thank you so much for coming on. And okay. So I had Michael Cotton on the show, on the ReCoop, a couple months ago. I love Michael Cotton. And he was talking to me about Prismatic, and he was talking to me about you and how impressive you are. And I'm just really excited to talk to you and learn more about, you know, how you became DeFi chick and how you came to the Algorand blockchain and everything else. So why don't we just start with you telling me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first, I hope I can live up to the hype. Michael is quite...
He's the best. He's the best.
Yeah, Michael definitely is the best. I'm just so happy Michael is part of the Algorand ecosystem, and I think he really helps elevate a lot of projects and guides a lot of us founders in the ecosystem, and I think he really adds a lot of value. So I'm super grateful for that. So about myself, I started in the blockchain industry in, I think, 2015, and I was part of DigiCash, which was meant to be like the electronical version of the Australian dollar. So I know DigiCash kind of started back in the 90s, and then, you know, they came back together in the 2014. We had a go at that, and I've been in the blockchain space ever since, but kind of more on the research side and on the institutional side. And it was actually only last year that I started, you know, digging deeper into some of these DeFi protocols. And I was just thinking, you know, DeFi just moves so much faster than institutional crypto. And I was ready to go fast, right? So it's like, oh, this is really fun. And I want to enter this world. And then and then a friend of mine was working on a project on Algorand, and I hadn't heard very much about Algorand up until then, because I think it very often, for whatever reason, kind of goes a little bit under the radar. And I started looking into it, and, you know, it seems to be so obvious, right? Like the technology, the technology speaks for itself, but on top of that, I think the emerging community is really, really powerful. So we decided to build a protocol on Algorand, and we saw an opportunity in building something in treasury management and tooling, because I think there isn't very much out there. There's a big need in the market. I love the idea of enabling other projects to exist in perpetuity. I think that's being an enabler is always good.
Yeah. So before we dive in here, you piqued my interest with DigiCash, because that rings such a bell. Who created DigiCash? Wasn't Nick Szabo? No. Who was DigiCash?
David Chaum. So it's Chaumian and eCash protocols, right? So it's David Chaum who wrote his PhD thesis, I think, back in the 90s on DigiCash. But you are right. So I think he was part of like the same cohort as Nick Szabo. So, you know, I mean, who knows who's the creator of the Bitcoin or who?
These are all guys that are rumored to be. I've often said, you know, Nick Szabo. I mean, these guys clearly were thinking about things like Bitcoin before. You're talking about the 90s, and Bitcoin was 2009. So that's so cool.
I think the Bitcoin white paper kind of bases upon the BitGold paper, right? Which was
that's Nick Szabo.
But then projects kind of exist in iterations and people extend upon it. And at some stage, it's kind of hard to say who came up with it. But it was really just by chance, right? So back in the days, I was a student and I was just applying for student jobs, and I came across this project DigiCash, and I was at a research center, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I quite like the style of working that you do in research, so that seemed to be a really good fit. But ever since I've been there, I've been in love with the blockchain space and with the technology and how it can change the world, right? I mean, not to just like put out buzzwordy kind of things, but I actually do think that it's a very powerful technology, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay, so Prismatic is, like you said, it's treasury management, solutions and tooling for organizations, and with a emphasis on DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And so, when not to bring up Michael again, but when I was, I like to bring up Michael apparently. And when I was talking to Michael, he was mentioning that the DAO infrastructure in Algorand is, well, to put it lightly, at the very earliest of stages. So obviously Prismatic is building tools for DAOs. I'm seeing, I saw Headline Inc. is also trying to put out some tools for DAOs. And, there's, it seems to be coming. So what, maybe for anybody out there that is a little bit, doesn't quite know what a DAO is, why don't you talk about, what is a DAO, and, where we're at in Algorand, and then you can kind of go on to talk about the tools that you're providing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe just as a first, so we're actually doing treasury management tooling for crypto organizations. So that's, any organization that holds crypto or digital assets as part of their treasury. And I think as a first, a DAO is a very good use case for that, right? So while there's lots of, traditional corporations that now have digital assets as part of their treasuries, I think it's the DAOs that are really in need of, some management solutions around that.
Yeah.
So for what a decentralized autonomous organization is, I mean, there's so many definitions out there. In my head, it's really just a group of people with a common goal who are trying to collaborate, and they have some kind of, shared bank account or shared, I'm saying bank account, but obviously I don't mean bank account.
The treasury,
shared treasury. And they're working towards something shared, right? And as opposed to the traditional world where a corporation is very top down, right? So you have your board of directors, you have your C-suite, and then it kind of like trickles down from there. A DAO is basically the other way around, right? It's managed from bottom up. Anyone can contribute. You don't have to be friends with the CEO of Apple. Like, you don't even have to like him to work for him, right? If you have something valuable to bring, you just go to a protocol and you contribute. And I think that's really nice. I think that's really cool. I think the style of working, and so one of the reasons I like DAO so much is because I think one of the saddest things in the world is that so many people actually don't like going to work, right? So people kind of have subscribed themselves to the fact that, they, the job's not ideal, but this is probably just what it's like. So they're going to do this 9 to 5 forever. And I think one of the biggest things that contribute to unhappiness at work is that people don't have autonomy and or skin in the game, and they don't like that. And I think that DAOs really kind of challenge that model in a really beautiful way. And I love the idea that people can be more satisfied at work. So how we're helpful to DAOs, right, is kind of at the moment on Algorand, if you have a treasury, you essentially have a multi-sig wallet. You have, in a small group, maybe in a Discord channel, kind of determined who are going to be the signatories. And then anytime you want to do any kind of transaction, you have to, decide upon that in some group channel, some group chat. You have to, get all the people in there to give their opinion. And then once you've decided upon something, you manually go in, you make a transaction. Maybe you have an Excel sheet to kind of track the transactions. And it's just really hard to kind of get a full overview of what's actually the financial health of a DAO, right? And I think as these treasuries are growing, it's really important to have like a single source of overview. And not only that, it's important to actively manage those treasuries, because I think a lot of the DAOs, they have like 50% of their treasury or something like that will be a native token, which is, obviously a risk profile that you wouldn't want to hold, right?
Right.
I mean, really all the tokens go up all the time, but in reality,
I know. What was it? It was David Portnoy. He said stocks only go up, and that saying isn't really isn't really playing out for him. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that up only mentality is very easy to adopt when there's like a bull market, but it's I mean, it's not the mentality that you want to have if you're running a treasury, right? Because you don't want to be forced to essentially sell your tokens at the worst possible time to pay bills. So the idea of our tool is basically it's like an integrated multi-sig wallet. It's very secure, it's non-custodial. You can go there, you can have any kind of fancy rule. So you can decide what group of people gets to approve what kind of transactions in what kind of time frame. So it's similar to Safe on Ethereum, but it's it's got more capabilities. And additionally to that, we kind of integrate with all of the trading venues on Algorand, which means that from that one interface, someone who's a signatory may be able to suggest a transaction and says, oh, I think we should be LPing on Tinyman, and then he can directly get a transaction, and then that transaction can be executed all from within the Prismatic interface, which I think just simplifies things so much, right? Because not only you can do the trading directly from there and you can get the approval directly in that interface, it obviously also comes with the reporting. So now if you have to do your taxes that we all love to do so much, or if you have to do whatever it might be, right? If you have to get an overview of, guys, how well are we actually doing? You can have a report generated one stop. And I think that's really cool too. So yeah, did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
No, absolutely answered my question. So I'm trying to get a full picture here. So it's, when you have a treasury and you have an organization, I imagine managing all that involves a lot of different people, costs a lot of money. People are all getting, paid. And then, so I would imagine something like this would streamline all of that. I saw something about like batch payments, like you can pay a whole bunch of different people in different tokens at the same exact time. That would seem to streamline things. And so is that, and so what am I even asking here? I'm
you're stretching on a good point, and I actually forgot to mention that. Another thing that we also offer is we want to facilitate spending of a DAO, right? So if you want your contributors in like a nice streamlined way. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm only like learning these things as well, right? But paying your because Prismatic is a DAO too. Paying your contributors takes a lot of time out of your day.
I would think so, yeah.
Once a day or only once a month and these kind of things. But I think there's definitely better ways to do that. And as a founder, there's a million things that you could be spending your attention on. And the one resource that's scarce is time, right? So if I can save my time by automating payments to whoever contributes to Prismatic, I'm grateful for that. That's good any day.
Yeah. And so so then are these things automated, or are these like, is some of this automated, or is this like you have an interface, you have a place that everybody can go, you can kind of track your financial performance, and it's very easy to assign roles to different people that are in the DAO? And it's is it more of a tool, or is this, because I'm imagining when you said risk profile, I mean, is this going to be kind of like AI checking, with all those different exchanges? Right now, we're a little skinny on exchange, dexes on Algorand, but Tiny Man, please. And I think they said today that they gave a warning, be careful because of the liquidity will be, low. So in the early days, so that seemed to mean that it's coming hopefully this week. But then on top of that, we have Humble Swap, we have DeFi, we have a lot of different things coming. So it's clearly the beginning, but we're not at the very beginning. We're entering a time that I think a lot of exciting things are coming to Algorand. That's my position. Yeah. And so as more of those tools, and I think you said Prismatic is what, like we're thinking Q2, or is
yeah. So yeah, maybe first things first. So you're spot on. We're offering tooling and not actual management, right? So we're basically enabling the organization to manage their treasury. And if the organization wants, they can, they can have a council, and that council can appoint a manager, and that manager can suggest transactions that are then, approved by other people. But essentially it's customizable. So whatever it is that you may want, whoever it is that you want to give permission to, I hope that we can facilitate that, right? So that's our goal. We enable you as an organization with crypto in your treasury. Yeah. So, and what was the second thing you said? So
I don't know. I just started talking. I just was like, I don't know, but I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I was thinking while you were saying that, I was thinking, is there examples of what you're doing? Like, what's an example like in traditional finance? Is there anything out there in traditional finance that you kind of compare to, or maybe modeled after, or anything like that? Or does this not really exist in traditional finance?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I mean, it most certainly does, right? So it's just a treasury management function of any kind of company. The way in which it's different in the normal world is that you would just have a bank account with the money, and then you might say, oh, some amount of our treasury goes towards, I don't know, we might spend that onto private equity, the rest goes onto the stock market. You will have a broker, you will have like all these intermediaries, right? That kind of like the normal money management kind of system that we're trying not to have, right? So we've created all the efficiencies by not having to depend on those intermediaries to enable us to participate in financial markets, which I think is really nice. And there's also centralized companies that are trying to build treasury management for crypto organizations. But I think it's within the spirit of DeFi. I think it's very nice if you can enable people to be the owner of their own assets and still have the flexibility of putting your money to work, right? I think it's crucial that we all get the opportunity to put our money to work. It's
Yeah. So, okay. So the fact that it's a decentralized solution, and I noticed that there's a Prism token, or there will be a Prism token. So what, how does the Prism token work in your ecosystem?
Yeah, so I'm super excited about the Prism token. We're still working out the exact details of the tokenomics, but I can tell you what we know so far. And then, there will be updates as we tag along. So essentially, we will be collecting fees at various points in the process, right? So there'd be some affiliate fees, and there might be, an AUM fee for whoever runs an account on our platform. And then that fee kind of goes into the Prismatic treasury. And if you hold a Prism token, you will have voting rights on what happens with the money in that treasury. So we are looking at different kind of models to try to ensure that there's, upward pressure on the price, and also that, it's like long-term sustainable, and that there's growth for whoever holds the Prism token, right? So we're thinking about things like trying to create protocol-owned liquidity. So perhaps with, the money that sits in the treasury, to go back into the market and to buy like whatever the most commonly traded pair is, like Algo Prism, for example, these kind of things. But yeah, so it's not fully determined, but there definitely will be a strong link between the protocol revenue and the token holders, because I think it's really important to kind of make sure that there's a connection between price movement and value accrual and actually usage of the platform.
Yeah. Okay, so cool. So so if just in general, your roadmap. So right now you guys you're building this out. I know you have some of the more impressive people behind you. You have Borderless Capital. So you guys are all set, ready to go, already going, I imagine. So why don't you take me through the roadmap and where you're at right now and where you see this headed?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. We closed the seed round in November, December last year. So we raised $2 million. Borderless is our lead investor. They've been absolutely amazing in helping us with working out the tokenomics that we've just been talking about. I actually just came from a meeting with them before I had this call with you. And we kicked off development on the 3rd of January this month. 3rd of January. So we're really only 3 weeks into development now. And the first thing we're building is the multi-sig wallet functionality. Then we're starting off with the strategic asset management or the strategic asset allocation piece, and then we move on to spending. But not to get too much into the weeds here. The short story is we're planning to go live in Q2 on testnet, and we will have like a small closed testnet round, because essentially in the beginning we're kind of like a business to business model, right? So our testers essentially will be our first users that are just all the projects building on Algorand. And then if testnet goes well, hopefully we're on mainnet a couple of months after that. And again, so for the moment or up until go live, we're going to fully focus on treasury management. After that, we definitely have on the roadmap to also build governance tooling. So you mentioned earlier that there's some other projects in the Algorand ecosystem who are working on governance tooling at the moment. And this is also one of the things I love so much about the Algorand ecosystem. Everyone is so helpful, and everyone sticks together and works together. So I'm in close collaboration and in contact with all of those projects. And it looks like maybe Prismatic is just going to be the platform that crypto organizations and DAOs come to for any kind of tooling. So we definitely plan on looking into doing the governance tooling in later down the roadmap as well.
And so if you zoom out with DAOs on Algorand, kind of hearkening back to what Michael Cotton was saying about where we're at, what is it that you see that is absolutely needed to make Algorand a destination for DAOs being built and people coming and growing out the entire ecosystem and having more and more of these organizations setting up shop here? What is missing that would make it a more appealing destination?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I actually think it's quite appealing already as it is.
Okay, good. I like that.
And I think that there's a lot of organizations noticing that. So I was at Decipher last year in November, and Silvio Meccani gave this brilliant talk, and he was actually talking about how DAOs are, or how Algorand is the blockchain for DAOs, because Algorand as a blockchain has the potential to be truly decentralized. And it makes no sense to, so these are the words he used, right? So he said it makes no sense to build a decentralized organization on a centralized blockchain. And there's a lot of, technologies out there that I all love and that are all good for different things. But I think the potential that Algorand can be truly decentralized, or is on its way to get there, is very for decentralized autonomous organizations. Plus, all the obvious stuff. It's cheap to do stuff on Algorand. It's fast to do stuff on Algorand. I think the ecosystem is certainly getting there at record speed. I feel like, I feel when I first entered Algorand, I just knew most projects. I was introduced to everyone, and now it's like every week you hear about 10 new projects that you have no idea where they come from, right? So I think anyone trying to spin up a DAO is certainly taking notice of Algorand as being a great place to do so.
Okay, cool. And how about so we're talking about organizations and DAOs. Is there tools that, Prismatic might offer to retail, kind of maybe not treasury, but I guess we all have our own personal treasury and risk management profiles and, need maybe interfaces that like to keep up with certain things, and kind of, because as the ecosystem grows, obviously there's going to be more ASAs. And if you're, full on in here, you're going to be excited about, zone, and then something else is going to come. And then you're going to want, to organize all that. Is that on the roadmap as well, to kind of provide retail tools as well?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. 100%. So the short answer is it's actually part of what we're building right to start with, because essentially it's the same tool, right? So you might be an individual, and if you're lucky or if you're very successful, you might have quite a large treasury yourself. So you might not want to like manage your money with just one account, right? So you might want to set up like a multi-sig wallet just for security reasons for your own kind of account. And essentially what Prismatic would allow you to do is to see all your transactions, see your statements, to do the reporting all in one window, and also be like the gateway to DeFi on Algorand, right? So access all these venues from the one place. So I think for individuals, it can make a lot of sense to also be using a multi-sig wallet and to use an interface that gives you the reporting. I mean, some of these centralized exchanges, like it's really hard to do your tax reporting with. I mean, even just exporting a CSV file from, I'm not going to call names of companies that I've used before. The downloads are just like, wow, I just can't, like, it's just very difficult for me to do reporting, right? So yeah.
And then as we enter into a more regulated environment and they're paying attention and, your taxes are going to become more and more important, it's good to have tools to make that a little more, a little easier.
Absolutely.
Is it? And then
or to just know what you have, right?
wait, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Or to just know what you have, where you're standing.
Well, absolutely, because like just even where my crypto, where I bought it over here and I put it over there, and then it's like different blockchains, and then it's just like a whole like. I guess that's a question. Is there a cross chain ability, or is this completely, I mean, not that I'm advocating that or anything, but I'm just saying, is that something that you kind of see, like maybe as Algorand grows and, YLDY has been under some fire, recently they're building something on Polygon and, they may be, they're trying to build bridges and things like that. So what, I don't know, would you be able to manage outside of just the Algorand ecosystem with your tool, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, just to be clear, I'm not a maximalist of any kind. I think there's lots of really good technologies out there at the moment. I happen to think that Algorand's the best for what I'm trying to achieve or what we're trying to achieve. The short answer is no. We have no plans right now to access or to integrate with trading venues on other chains. However, we're obviously closely working with Algomid, a bridge. So if there's assets from like another chain, like if you wanted to have, Bitcoin or Ethereum as part of your portfolio, that's most certainly possible. For this very moment, it's powerful for us to build the best possible tool for organizations on Algorand. Nose is safe, Fireblocks, all of these alternatives, they are only EVM compatible, right? So they're not AVM compatible, which is like something that we address, and not that they can't end at that any time. But I most certainly want to focus on the Algorand ecosystem for the moment.
Of course. And so, okay, just to go back on one point, when there are more than one DEX, or when there's more than just Tiny Man and you're integrated with a few of them, on this interface, is this like a thing where you might be able to see, if you wanted to execute a swap, that you could kind of see where you might get the best type of deal, like where the price might be the most beneficial? I don't know. I'm just trying to think for me, like, like how this could, like this tool could be like something that I really, because I like the idea with all the different ASAs, and I know that a lot of different things are going to be built. Like I'm thinking, oh, this could be cool, like having your own interface and knowing where the best price is to do something.
So Cooper, it sounds like we're onboarding you as a client after this phone call.
Yeah, I think you did it. I think, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we integrate with, we hope that eventually we can integrate with all of the trading venues, and you clearly be able to see things like what best execution would be. We don't do like routing as such, right? Because there's still a person who is part of whatever that organization is, who's the decision maker. So we don't decide on your behalf. But yeah, you'd be able to see quotes and prices from like different venues for sure.
Cool. Well, what did I miss? I feel like because I was thinking when I heard treasury management, then I was thinking of things like, which isn't exactly the same thing, but things like copy trading and, you know, stuff like that. But that's not exactly what you're doing over there at Prismatic, right? That's
correct. So no,
that's
we're
great.
not doing copy trading. I mean, it would be possible for, again, it would be possible for a treasury to appoint a manager. So someone who actually has some asset management experience and who would know how to structure a treasury smartly, but that's not a service that we provide. So I think it's very important that you leave that power kind of with the
with the organization.
Yes, yeah. That's the
where are you from? I guess is the question I'm trying to ask. Yeah.
So I'm a Dutch girl. I'm from the Netherlands. But
cool.
My main residency is in Switzerland at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And did you Michael Cotton and all of them, did you have a connection to Australia as well, or?
Yeah. So Australia is one of my most favorite countries in the world, and you know, there's also just so many good Algorand projects in Australia. I'm biased, but I think Australians are the best, so I'm not surprised that they're building on the best blockchain. But essentially, I did my undergrad studies in Australia. It's where I started my career. It's where I worked for DigiCash. I lived there for more than 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then it was actually the job that got me to Switzerland. So as I got more and more into crypto, it seemed to make sense for me at the time to move to Crypto Valley. So I was consulting for a project, and you know, Switzerland was like the place to be. So that's how I got to Switzerland. So Michael Cotton and I had like a common friend through whom I was introduced to Michael, and you know, AJ, who's really great as well, and Meld Ventures. So that's how we kind of got to collaborate. But yeah, I'm lucky to meet both of them actually.
I've noticed on Twitter that you're very active and you know, on like with NFTs and you know, kind of being like, oh, somebody stop me, you know, because like are there somebody... Well, and then we actually I had commented, you had said that your boyfriend had got you a NFT for Christmas, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I got my wife a NFT for Christmas, I think she'd divorce me. But so I expressed some jealousy. Do you have any NFT projects that you're like, oh, I got to get one of those? Or is there anything that you just kind of like you're eyeing right now? Or
look, it's so hard to. I don't want to, you know, single one particular project out, but there's so many projects on Algorand. I actually think that all of them have lots of potential, and the main thing is that all of them have like really cool and strong communities. I feel like the NFT community on Algorand is just on fire, right? Like everyone's just so full on. You've got some really good artists, and it's just really fun to be part of that.
Yeah, well, you know, I'll admit that I'm a bit of a NFT noob, right? I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I've never bought an NFT on OpenSea, right? So my bubble, I'm very much in a bubble, but it feels very vibrant in this bubble. And it seems like there's just more and more artists coming. Like maybe you can help me kind of, am I wrong, or the Algorand NFT space is very much growing and competitive, or am I being a little, biased, or, you know, a little.
The NFT space is booming, and I think partially it's because of the inherent functionality that the blockchain has, as in, you know, it's just, you know, cheap and easy to mint something on there. It's cheap and easy to access the secondary market. I think the marketplaces on Algorand are actually really great. So there's Cessbloom coming, there's Gallery obviously, and you know, AB2, A2B. Yep.
AB2, yeah.
No, I think they're just all really well done projects. So I think that's like that's. I mean, making it easy for people to access this market, to be part of it, that's a big thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and because I couldn't imagine. I have friends talking to me, asking me how to, you know, to buy on OpenSea, and you know, I'll tell them because I can figure it out. But the fees are crazy and like, all of these things. So it just seems so logical. And, look, I think what I'm doing right now is just trying to extend this conversation because I'm enjoying it. But so and so I apologize, but yeah, okay. Well, look, is there anything? What did I miss? Is there anything else that? So in Q2 testnet, and then if all goes well, a couple months after that, there's going to be a Prism token that will be used to help govern the Prismatic treasury itself.
Absolutely.
And then there's going to be more details on tokenomics to come. Algorand is very lucky to have you, the DeFi chick. So everybody follow her at DeFi chick on Twitter. You could join her Discord, and I'll put all that information in the description of the video. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, anything I missed?
So for the moment, I'm really just, I'm trying to learn everything there is to know about crypto organizations and decentralized autonomous organizations. And, if you're listening to this and you run such an organization or you're founder, if anyone needs help or has a particular idea or pain point, I totally, my DMs are open. I totally appreciate anyone reaching out to me and to just understand what it is that, the other projects in this market need at the moment. Yeah. I think that's maybe the only thing that I would add on. Else your summary was perfect, I would say.
Oh, I didn't ask. So is it what's your team like? How is it you and do you have a co-founder, or is there, what does your team look like? Who's working with?
It's a good question. So our team is growing. So at the moment we're maybe about 10 people, with more half than that being developers. Then we have a few co-founders. So there's Michael Cotton, there's AJ Milner, there's Henrik from DHedge, Radek and Erman from DHedge. So we're the initial crowd. Then we've got the devs. We've been very lucky lately to add on a couple more people to our team for community development, and also so Anthony for community development, and also Michael for as a strategy and operations manager, who both have been absolutely brilliant. We're actively hiring right now. I just had 3 interviews with, more people today. We're hiring across the board. If you're looking to get involved, definitely do reach out, whether that's for a business role or for a dev role. So I'm also, actively trying to get more girls into this space. So I've been using Twitter as a bit of a platform to connect with other women in Algorand and with other women in DeFi in general, because I think that diversity in this space, and also, in the hiring process and within Prismatic, is really valuable. And I think there's lots of things to be gained from that. So I'm actually going to be hosting a Twitter space for women in DeFi and women in Algorand, to just kind of, get an idea of who's out there, how can we get more girls in, and make this a good experience for everyone, right? So just saying, if you're female or not and listening to this, and you're keen about women in Algorand, then
I'm definitely, I mean, I didn't mention it, but I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to meet you. And I'm so glad that, I got to meet you and that you're building these tools and you're here. And I think that I've been talking about Algorand for a while now. So it's really fun for me to see, people like you coming in. And I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe you were here before I was, who knows? But, and from my perspective, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to support it. So if there's ever anything I can do to help you or help Prismatic or anybody really, I'm open and trying to figure out ways to help as well. So, thank you, Natalie.
And as soon as your daughter is old enough, send her my way.
I know, right? Well, you saw her art. She's doing great, right? She was a collab artist on the Algobot. So she did the heart.
Is amazing. So Algobot is also going to do a series on Prismatic, and I'm very excited for that collaboration.
He's one of the first. I believe he's the first ambassador of Algorand. He's either one of the first or the first, and I love the art. So it's great. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well,
It's very nice. Thank you so much for having me,
yeah.
Cooper. I really
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you. And then if you'd like to, when everything starts going live, hopefully you'll come back and we can talk again.
Absolutely. You get the demo and you'll be like the first person to know about testnet and all that. So can't wait.
Oh, please. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye.